Hi, I'm Terry Warren. Thank you for joining me. I'm a nurse practitioner and have been seeing patients with genital herpes for many years. If you're watching this video, you've either been diagnosed with genital herpes or are suspected to have herpes. There's no doubt you have lots of questions and are experiencing a wide range of emotions right now. My goal is to help answer some of your questions and to address some of the common emotional reactions people have to this diagnosis. In addition to watching this video, I encourage you to continue to talk to your healthcare provider. I'm certain that our common goal is to help you adjust to having genital herpes. So what is genital herpes? Genital herpes is caused by a herpes simplex virus, most often herpes simplex virus type 2, or HSV2. Genital herpes is widespread. As many as 1 in 5 Americans over the age of 14 is infected with HSV2, and up to 90% of those infected do not know that they have genital herpes. This virus is spread by direct, intimate, skin-to-skin contact, such as oral, anal, or vaginal sex. It isn't spread through the air, or toilet seats, or swimming pools. It isn't spread by regular social interactions, such as shaking hands. At the present time, there is no cure for herpes, but there are effective treatments for managing outbreaks and reducing the risk of spreading the disease. We'll go into more detail on these points a bit later. Another common herpes virus is the cold sore virus, or herpes simplex virus type 1, HSV1. HSV1 can spread to the genitals through oral sex, and an increasing number of new genital herpes cases are caused by HSV1. HSV2 can infect the mouth as well, but this is very uncommon. It is important to know which type of virus you have genitally. If you don't know that already, you may wish to ask your healthcare provider. The two most common questions I hear from newly diagnosed patients are, who gave this disease to me? And how long have I had it? It's normal that you would be curious about these questions. If you're currently in a relationship and herpes has come up, you may have questions about honesty and sexual faithfulness. Unfortunately, it's not always easy to figure out exactly when you got this disease. Sometimes testing can identify if an infection is your first or not, but even this is not foolproof. The truth is that there are millions of people who are infected with genital herpes and don't even know it. This isn't surprising, since herpes testing is hardly ever included in annual physical exams and screenings. Many people who've been diagnosed with genital herpes believe that they are only contagious when they have an outbreak. This is unfortunately not true. In fact, one study found that up to 70% of people who got herpes got it from their partner when their partner had no signs or symptoms of an outbreak. One study showed that 74% of people found out they were infected with genital herpes only after they had infected their partner. With this in mind, there are several ways that you could have gotten herpes even if you're in a long-term relationship and both you and your partner have been faithful. One way is that you were infected years ago and didn't know it. Another way that you could have gotten herpes is that your partner was infected years ago, knowingly or unknowingly, and passed it on to you recently. Finally, you may have been infected by having oral sex when your partner had a cold sore or HSV1 infection. So don't immediately jump to the conclusion that your partner has been unfaithful. The core of who you are is the same as it always was. The biggest issue is the feeling that somehow you've become a dirty and less worthwhile person now that you have herpes, that you are damaged goods. I'll tell you right now that just isn't so. Genital herpes is very common. This virus doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care if you're educated or not, rich or poor, old or young, smart or not so smart. You are so much more than a person with herpes, so be careful not to let this virus start defining who you are in any way. You are not alone. Sometimes my patients tell me that they feel really alone, that they can't bring themselves to tell anyone about this. I always encourage them to tell at least one other person. It's a heavy secret to bear alone, And once you can start telling a few people, you may be amazed at how many people you find who are infected themselves. You may also benefit from joining online support groups or attending a local support group. I'll tell you more about them in our additional support section. I would encourage you to stay in touch with your healthcare provider if you feel comfortable with them. They can be a source of continuing information, support, and medication. Read as much as you can about herpes so that you understand it as much as possible. If you're really struggling, talking with a professional counselor might also be helpful. In the end, I think it has been most useful for my patients to remind themselves of who they really are. They are people with many attributes, many gifts that they bring to this world, and herpes is a single characteristic that they have. It does not define them in any way. There is absolutely no evidence anywhere that having herpes changes the core of who you are. Let's move on to where you'll learn more about how genital herpes acts in your body. You know that genital herpes is contagious and can be spread to other people. Let's talk for a bit about exactly how genital herpes acts in your body. Genital herpes is caused by a virus spread through intimate, physical, skin-to-skin contact, including oral, anal, or vaginal sex. The virus is always with you. It's usually quiet or inactive in the nerves near the base of the spine, and it isn't contagious during that time. You might think of it as sleeping. No matter how mild or severe, each outbreak is contagious. When you have an outbreak, something triggers the sleeping virus that causes it to multiply with symptoms, such as sores, blisters, or rashes that appear on the surface of the skin. Early warning signs, such as tingling, itching, or pain in the affected area, may occur before outbreaks. You should not have sexual contact during an outbreak or when you feel one coming on, because you're most contagious at this time. You may be contagious even if there are no signs or symptoms. Sometimes the herpes virus is active on the surface of the skin without causing symptoms or early warning signs. This can happen where you have had an outbreak before or somewhere nearby. So even between outbreaks, you may be contagious and not know it. One study found that up to 70% of people who got herpes got it from their partner when their partner had no signs or symptoms of an outbreak. This may even be how you got genital herpes. You can't predict when you will be contagious. Because the virus can be active on the surface of the skin without showing any signs or causing any symptoms, you can spread the virus to your partner even when you are not having an outbreak. You can't predict when the virus is active and when you will be contagious. This is an example of how the virus may act in any given month. The red days are when you may be highly contagious, when outbreak signs or symptoms are present. The yellow days are when you are contagious but no signs or symptoms are present. The gray days are when the virus is inactive. You can't predict when the virus is active and contagious. Of course, virus activity varies from person to person. I hope I've covered some of the questions you might have had. Don't forget to consider doing some of the things we talked about earlier, talking to a friend or family member, setting up a follow-up appointment with your healthcare provider to ask more questions, and reading more about genital herpes. You can learn more about genital herpes and herpes treatments by seeking out websites and hotlines, some of which we will list in a minute and are available on the DVD case you received. Take some time to review these resources. Remember, you're not alone. You can still have healthy relationships. Talk to your healthcare provider about what you can do to manage your genital herpes. Thanks for joining me.